Welcome back to Talking About, ladies and gentlemen, and my guest this morning, he is a man that has worn many hats in the national security apparatus of this country, but currently he wears the hat, a political one, that of the leader of the National Transformation Alliance. He is Gary Griffith. Welcome to Talking Point, sir.
Hi, good morning. Good morning to you and to your many viewers.
So, Mr. Griffith, we have some time, but I don't want to waste any of it, so I want to just go straight into it. Now, you have had an interesting career path, I would say. I don't really know of anyone who has gone to a ministerial level and then technically take a step down and volunteer himself to be Commissioner of Police. Now, throughout your career, you have had detractors. Some might say you're controversial. You have your supporters. You still have your supporters. Some look at your previous work as Commissioner of Police and they're saying, at the very least, that's what we want, that's what we need right now in TNT. I just want to get a sense of how does that make you feel that you're a people hold very differing opinions about you.
Well, it actually goes with leadership. There's a saying, it is lonely at the top, but the view is excellent. You can't expect to play mass on trade powder. If it is that you intend to put yourself out in public life to serve the country, you will never get 100% of persons supporting you. Even when I was Commissioner of Police, it was amazing that even though 89% of the country supported me, they wanted me to remain as Commissioner or had no concerns, there were actually 11% of persons who really hated me. And sometimes it will happen. It can be based on my style, my position. Sometimes persons will be linked to criminal elements. Sometimes persons will be criminals themselves. Sometimes persons may just be very political because of the party that I was in. So people have their own view. That is their right. And that can never change. You are never going to get 100% of persons supporting you. I think, what's that?
Well, speaking about style, right, I will say this, because some people don't necessarily know what to think. Obviously, there will be people who are biased against you for politics. The base of various parties will have their opinions, for and against, right? Depending on who you decide to ally with, not ally with. We'll get into that in a little bit later. But I have noticed something very interesting about you. At your best, and I include when you were lobbying for the job in the press, I remember reading your letters to the editor for the role of Commissioner of Police. You know, when you were the Commissioner of Police and you were basically diplomatically kind of positioning the police service away from perhaps some of the more questionable measures the government wanted you to take with enforcing their public health regulations. And then even after the local government elections, when you were on this show, at your best, you seem to be a great communicator, very measured with your words, very good explaining your positions, very statesmanlike. But then, of course, there are times when you get very defensive. Maybe you take things personally, and then, whereas at your best, you might seem better than a lot of the people who are well established in politics, at your worst, you kind of come back down to be amongst them. And people might be looking for change. Tobago is hoping they have change. The jury's still out on that. But this is a time when both parties, they might be weak, and the voters in the middle might be up for grabs, and they're looking for something different, right? What would you say to those voters who might not know what to make of you because they see the two sides of you? It's there for the public to see.
Sure. Nothing that you said is incorrect. The fact of the matter is that, as I said, persons have a right to give their opinion. They do not like Gary Griffith because I'm too good looking, I'm too aggressive, I will make decisions to secure a nation, and other persons will be upset. Look at what's happening in El Salvador. The decisions made by the El Salvador hierarchy, it totally transformed the security of El Salvador. What I did would have been probably 5% to what was done there. And people wanted to destroy me for it. How dare I say one shot, one kill? And that worked. How dare I say, I refer to a cold-blooded murderer, a rapist, a child molester as a cockroach. So there are people who defend wrongdoing. There's always good versus evil. And if evil will have a way, or even maybe not evil, sometimes people are just political. Listen, there have been persons who hated me when I was in the UNC, as soon as I became commissioner and Keith Rowley started praising me, they loved me. As soon as Keith Rowley stopped liking me, they hated me again. So there are persons that, you know, and sometimes just to call it, it's not people, but sheeple. So whatever the political leader of the party they blindly support says is how they operate. So there have been tens of thousands who did like me when I was a UNC minister in national security. Then they loved me when I became seen as a PNM appointed commissioner. And now they hate me again because I'm not there. So you can't change those mindsets. But my concern when I get, I'll not say defensive, it's my name. You see, when it comes to my reputation, if you want to say anything about me and you make character assassinations on my character, that is one thing I'm going to keep. And I will guard that jealously. And I would defend it. So if it is you make an accusation about myself, I am going to come and defend it. And that is my right. So for example, I would have heard on WESN, they continue to speak about the situation with the two men who died at the hands of the police and try to give the impression that I was trying to not deal with it. Never in the history of the police service, 5 decades plus of this police service, has there been so many police officers directed by me to investigate that matter. Over 30 police officers from 6 different units. That is how transparent I am. Never did I ever say that anybody fell off a chair. But certain persons in the media continue to say that that was a blatant lie. I never said that. I said that the person was, there was an incident. He was taken to the hospital by police officers. He was asked to be placed on a bed. He said no, he wanted to be seated. He then collapsed. The doctors looked at him, and a few hours later, he died. If anybody sees that by stating Gary Griffith said the person fell off a chair, is mischief. So all it is that I am very, when it comes to you, if you lie about me, if you try to look at the Stanley John report, after 4 years of a massive well-oiled criminal industry, this was done deliberately to target my reputation. 4 years later, 7,000 police officers, 25,000 applicants, 6,000 persons got firearms, over 20 dealers, and not one person arrested because it was a lie. So if it is that I seem not say defensive, but if you come out to try to smear my name with blatant lies, I'm going to call you out and expose you.
Well, all right. I didn't necessarily want to go there quite just yet, but as we're there, because I myself did ask the Prime Minister, I made note of the fact that at the local government elections, he mentioned that situation. For what purpose? Well, it was a national elections campaign, I think. I have said many parties, more or less, including the voters themselves, that's how the participation seemed like to me. And at Balise House, I asked him about the situation because he said, well, after the local government elections, he will reveal what is to be revealed. And that was the night after, so I asked him, and all of a sudden, it's before the courts and he can't reveal. So, from your perspective now, the Prime Minister, the things that he's had to say, you know, what would you, just give me a response, then I'm just saying.
I have nothing. Keith Rowley is not the enemy. I have no hatred or bitterness for Keith Rowley. I ask the whole country to understand that is our Prime Minister. In the same way, I will ask all PNM supporters to understand this hatred and bitterness you have for Kamala Prasad-Biswas. So that's what has divided the country. My style of politics is totally different. I have been involved in the United Nations mission in Haiti for 6 months, where it is we were living in a virtual desert. And it is that we could have been involved with enemy attacks at any time. I've been involved when I was at the military academy, Sandhurst, dealing with the IRA. I was the youngest officer to serve in the attempted coup. Shots were firing over our heads. And I know what an enemy is. When these politicians, sometimes on either side, refer to persons as the enemy, it is totally pathetic. So I have no concern about Keith Rowley being an enemy. He's a political opponent. He means well, he meant well. He has lost his way because of people blindsided him. And unfortunately, we have politicians who whispers in your ears, last is what you believe. And he was misled. And when he went along that line, because this was the same Keith Rowley in March 2021, he told his cabinet if he could get 10 Gary Griffiths, he could fix the country. This was the same Keith Rowley in April 2021, who told his Attorney General, when I said, look, I had 3 years, I wasn't coming back. I did my tour of duty.
Well, I want to ask, because they've made great hay about the number of guns and ammunition that was imported. They didn't necessarily give us any details. Can you shed light on the details of who the intended recipients were for?
So I'm coming to that. But I want to show the point of how politicians can flip-flop. In March, he said he wish he could get 10 Gary Griffiths. In April, he told the Attorney General, but Gary's leaving. He said, yeah, Gary never signed a contract wanting to remain. He was gone. He said, change that, talk to Gary Griffith. We cannot lose him. They amended the law for an acting commissioner to be someone who was not a career police officer. That is how badly he wanted me to remain. Someone whispered in his ears about firearms, and they lied, which is why I spoke about the Stanley John report. You did a Stanley John report, and 4 years later, not one person has been arrested, charged, or convicted. It was all a lie. But that is what happens where, just like Emailgate, you say the same lie over and over, people will get to believe you. So when they made these comments, and that is why I had to stand firm and say, wait a minute, you are making an accusation to say that we gave out 60,000 firearms, 60,000 firearms brought into the country. I was issuing 2,000 firearms a year. So they've taken 30 years for those firearms to be sold. That shows it was a blatant lie by the Prime Minister. Fitzgerald Hines said that we brought in semi-automatic weapons and we bought component parts to change it from semi-automatic to automatic. That was a lie. If that was done, persons would be arrested because citizens can't have automatic weapons. They then said that the plan is for me to give out firearms to every single person. That was a lie. I issued 2,000 firearms a year. 1,000 of those, half of those were to law enforcement officials who needed it. So that was 0.3% of the population. They then stated that legal firearms were being used to kill persons. That was a lie because ballistic testing will show that everybody who has a legal licensed firearm, ballistic testing is done. So when you find bodies at a crime scene, you look at the gunshot and you will ascertain if it came from a licensed firearm. So all of these things were blatant lies. And then when they decided that it wasn't working, the country wasn't buying it, they decided to hire persons probably close to them, pay them big money. These persons will probably write what you want to see. And out of, you will know this one, out of basic common sense, if you do an audit in WESN, who is the first person you will speak to? The person in charge. These jokers, these 3 auditors, who are ex-police officers, so clueless, did an audit without even speaking to me. Under natural justice, you can't do an audit and the person who's in charge you never spoke to. But besides that, I still didn't mind. Let them go ahead and read what they had to say, and I would have sued them for every cent they had. What he wanted to do was to go to Parliament, because Parliament is the one place that you can lie, mislead a country, defame someone, and not be sued. And so this was not about Gary Griffith. When Fitzgerald Hines said Gary Griffith is going, the reason I went to court is because court is the one place that cannot be controlled by the politicians.
Well, I want to switch gears a bit here because after your tenure, the position, the role of the Commissioner of Police has become a political football. The performance of the police service, to some extent, has become a political issue, right? Now, just based on your time there, so obviously it's not recent, right? What could you say with regards to what is causing the issues within the police service?
The unfortunate thing is, it's not the police officers. It's the same 7,000 police officers under my watch. Most of them are still there. So look at listen to what you were speaking about with the demerit points and how police are abusing their authority. How come we never heard one report of that in my last 2 years as Commissioner of Police? Because I put checks and balances to measure performance and make police officers accountable. So they're not bad police officers. The systems that we put in place have now collapsed. Before me and after me, the majority of police officers will not turn up to court. So the criminals knew that I could commit a crime, the officers wouldn't be there, and I would be let off. We put a 93% reduction in police absenteeism to make sure that it will take away that product of opportunity for the criminal elements. The systems that we had for known as preventative policing, such as the E999 being effective. As soon as you call, it will be answered. You make a call within 3 to 5 minutes, you'll have a police response at your home, which put an end to home invasions. Using technology that put an end to kidnapping, which never happened before. All of these put in a specific unit, highly trained, qualified polygraph to put fear into criminals. Those are the things that ensured public trust and confidence in the police service. It was 14% when I arrived. It was 59% when I left. And now it is 8% a year after I left. What has caused the problem is, unfortunately, the politicizing of the police service, where instructions were given to shut down and dismantle every single thing that was there that caused the public to feel safer just 3 years ago.
Well, I want to kind of marry what we've been talking about together the two aspects, the political and your time as the commissioner, because ironically, I have lamented the whole situation. Sorry. The whole situation with the crime talk showed that the government and the opposition, to me, at the end of the day, just does not seem to want to come together. But you, to some extent, you know, crossed the proverbial political flaw. You weren't a parliamentarian, but you were, technically speaking, in our system of politics, in our political environment. You don't see someone just going to work with the other side just so. And you did so. And as commissioner, you didn't necessarily undermine the government. And I took note of how you communicated various issues and situations as commissioner. Now, you mentioned before that you don't see politicians as an enemy, they're political opponents. Is it that you're willing now, as political leader of the NTA, are you open to working with anybody once it's about doing proper business of governance? Or are there people who perhaps you might not care to work with?
Well, no, whoever's in government, we should give them that support, regardless of who that person or group is. And it was in February last year that I was the person who sent that olive branch. So all the talk you're hearing about the president, a newspaper article said that it was the president who said the parties should get together. That was the first thing started was myself in February last year. Kamala Prasad-Bissessar took the baton, she continued. She then, about April or May, she said she's agreeing with me and she is saying that he should listen to what I said. The pettiness of Keith Rowley to say, I don't want to talk to any of them. When you do that as a prime minister, you have now cut off 50% of that ability of persons that may have that intellectual ability in whatever, health, education, the economy, national security, because they don't have your party card. And when the government changes next year, my intention is being part of the next government is not for us to go down that same road. There are many things that the PNM may have achieved that we shouldn't be just shutting down and dismantling. I did it when I was Minister of National Security. I saw many good things. Patrick Manning had a vision, that vision such as the OPVs. Okay, you don't need to spend $2.4 billion for 3 vessels when I was able to get 10 vessels from Darman for half the price. But I looked at what Manning had. He also had the special anti-crime unit. I formed the special operation response team. So there are certain things that you can see and we shouldn't just destroy it. If Keith Rowley is in government at this time, at least for the next year, the country cannot continue in the same way until he demits office. If it is that we are willing to, as a citizen of this country, you must be a patriot before you are a politician. And that's how I have operated all the time. And I will stand firm on certain principles. I mean, even when I was minister, I stood firm on something with live sport, and it may have been something that was the government, but based on intelligence, I had to stand firm to do what was right for the country. When I was commissioner of police, I had to stand firm against a prime minister because they were trying to influence me to arrest citizens in their home because of their ignorance and not understanding public health regulations.
Well, I mean, I want to be a bit more specific now. Part of it is we're not necessarily sure how this election is going to play out. Part of the fears is that we're just going to see the same old song and dance. Whether it's the UNC or the PNM, we're not necessarily going to see change. Now, there are other parties involved at various degrees of readiness, with various degrees of public perception and confidence. One of those parties, for better or worse, is the PP under Philip Edward Alexander, who you all had a bit of a public disagreement at one point when it seemed as though both groups wanted to work with the UNC. So before we get on to the wider political implications, would you be willing to work with Philip, you know, if it came to that, if the opportunity presented itself? Because I would assume that the goal would be to provide potentially the best chance to both win an election, but then also to govern the country. Do you see him being, if ever, part of that equation?
You know, I keep hearing this problem about this comment being made, and you just made it as again. And I asked you to show me at any time when I was involved in any public spat with Philip Alexander. I have never. I won't waste my time. It is him. Philip Alexander seems that I think there's a poster of me on the wall in his bedroom. All he does, every single article, Gary Griffith, Gary Griffith, Gary Griffith, Gary Griffith. And all that I will do probably once every couple of weeks is to expose him as a liar that is not true. When he said that, oh, I stated that the UNC was involved in affiliation with gangs. And I showed him, we said that in our we got no evidence. So he continues to make lies. He lies, makes false statements about me. But all he does is attack me. How could you're not in government or opposition, and all you do is to speak about somebody, another party that is not in government or opposition. It is either he's totally obsessed, infatuated, has an inferiority complex, or is being directed. So it is hard to work with somebody with that type of attitude, where he flip-flops. This is a man who has resigned from politics 4 times in the last few years. The last time he resigned from politics, then called a political meeting to reappoint himself as political leader. So to state that, how can you work with somebody like that? You don't know where he is. He stated that I remember he was on a UNC platform in 2020. Then he came and he said that he will work for the PNM for free to make sure that Kamala and Gary never gets in government. That was just a few months ago. 2 months after that, he says he's going to support the UNC. A month after that, he says that he's not supporting the UNC if Gary is there. 2 weeks after that, he then says, no, he's going to work with Gary and he's burying the hatchet. 2 weeks after that, which was a few days ago, attacking Gary Griffith again. How could anyone, any citizen, expect to have that type of person to be part of a government? Because you don't know what side of the bed he's going to get up on in the morning. So I have no animosity for Philip Alexander. I feel sorry for him because you are so obsessed with Gary Griffith. All you do is speak about me. And I mean, anybody who's the people who vote for Philip are people who just hate the PNM or UNC. If Bin Laden has a political party, they will vote for it. I am not, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I am not stating that Philip Alexander cannot be an asset to the country. But you can't be flip-flopping every single day. People are not going to say, well, wait, we don't know if you're coming or going.
Okay. So now, of course, the big picture now, the general election is coming up. You have stated that you would work with the UNC. We have not necessarily seen a formal declaration of alliance for the general. Both parties are reported to have put forward or are intending to put forward 41 candidates. We don't necessarily know how everything will all play out, although I would argue that even though the general is a year away, moves have to be made so that the public could start to get some confidence, build up the perception of whatever the slate may look like. Moving forward potentially with the UNC, is it that you think this might be the one main path for change in the country for you to work with the UNC, or are you open to work with whoever has the votes, whatever might be the permutations to bring about a government that hopefully would be successful and potentially fix some of the problems we have now?
Yeah, well, just joining with any political party to get in government, that is political prostitution. You're doing everything in the hope for you to get power and to win. So, and that third constituency, that bridge constituency, they are not especially those persons, they are not there to win at all costs. That bridge constituency started in 1981 with the ONR with 91,000 votes. 10 years later, in 1991, it was the NAR, they got 127,000 votes. Kamala Persad-Bissessar was part of that third constituency. Then 16 odd years later, 2007, the COP got 147,000 votes. Now, 10 years later, 17 years later, now we have the National Transformation Alliance. 10 years from now, there may be another name to it. But the point being is that bridge constituency of that 100 to 250,000 persons are not a PNM or UNC till they die, where there will be 200,000 either side, and there's nothing, I'm not attacking those persons. There are persons who are very heavily, regardless of what the political leader of the PNM or UNC will do, they are going to support them. And that's 200,000 they start with. But that 150,000 floating voters, if there's not a third party, they split up. Probably 100 will go one way, 50 will go the other way, or most may not vote. When that third party comes in, if they go down the center, what will happen at all occasions with that is that the PNM wins by a larger margin. So I'm a realist, and this is what usually happens because of our system of proportional, of first past the post rather than proportional representation. So even the ONR got 91,000 votes in 1981 to the UNC, 60-odd, ULF, 60-odd. The ULS got several seats, and the ONR got none. So the COP got 147,000 to the UNC's 190 odd in 2007, and it was 15 seats to 0. So when it is that that third party goes on its own, you're going to see the results of 1981, 1991, and 2007. When that third party joins with another major party, you get an annihilation of the PNM similar to 1986 with the NAR and 2010. But our intention is to make sure that we are represented, we are not disrespected, and we have a voice in government. So it's not just for us to be an add-on to try to win national seats.
One of my lamentations is the one administration the partnership had. It seemed as though the COP came out at the other end of it worse for wear, right? And the country, the party and the country lost an opportunity. And I have been waiting for somebody to try to regain that, take the ball and roll with it. Because like I said, I think both the PNM and the UNC, I thought they were at their weakest last general election, and I was disappointed that there was no one available to really make a serious effort to start that ball rolling again. And I think it's a long-term situation. It's not a, well, I need to win seats in this election, otherwise I'm out, which most people outside of the COP, that's more or less the stance that they took. Are you willing to say to the people of Trinidad and Tobago that the NTA is not just a satellite division of some other political party, but it's in it for the long haul, even if it's just for the voters in the middle, to provide a home for those voters so that their voices, their votes will become much more pertinent in what usually we just say, well, what's the point of me voting? Because in my constituency, this party always wins, etc., etc.
No, you're correct. That's definitely, and this is not in any way to discredit the previous political leaders of the COP at the time, Winston Dukran and Prakash Ramadan. My style could have been different, and obviously you'd have seen the little clashes already that between Kamala Prasad-Bissessar and myself, because I am not a yes person, and it's the same thing that even when whether I'm Commissioner of Police, Minister of National Security, that measured success is why I want people around me that have the ability to tell me I think it's wrong. I mean, we will debate and we will come with lots of points, and you better come good. But having yes people around you, and this is what has happened for far too long in this country, where persons hold that position of authority as a political leader, and the individuals around will be afraid to tell the person the truth. I remember I always told Kamala Prasad-Bissessar as an advisor that I am not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need to know. And I frustrated the life out of her, but on many occasions, it assisted her. And that is what we must do. That bridge constituency cannot just be there. Let's just add 100,000 votes to help the UNC get in government. What that 100,000 wants is to make sure that they become part of the government and not just helping prop up another party to get in government. If the UNC shows that degree of respect and understanding for that bridge constituency, it will work. I give the promise and the assurance that to those persons who are not PNM or UNC till they die, that this is the only way, it is the best way for us to be in government. So, and if we want to be represented, we need to work and find an avenue to ensure that if we work with other political parties, they must have the similar principles, the ideologies, to show that, look, this is what we intend to do. And I'll give you one quick example, which is non-negotiable. We have seen for decades political parties getting in government and associating themselves with criminal elements and gangs, giving them state contracts. That is a no-no in the next government. I am not going to stand for it. I stood like that with life sport, and this was not to discredit ministers, because sometimes it happens at a lower level. Even as a commissioner of police, I saw it with this present administration. I was explaining to them all of the contracts where gang members were getting $5 million contracts to build a $500,000 box train, and they're using the profit to purchase more sophisticated weapons, hire more gang members, pay rogue police officers. And first, to deal with national security, we deal with fixing the country, it must be in a situation of it being non-negotiable, where we are not going to affiliate ourselves by giving state contracts to gangs. That's just one simple example.
So, I mean, I understand you're a political leader, so you have to broaden your view in the political landscape, but I do want to close with a question, because, like I said, the situation involving the police service and the commissioner of police has become somewhat political, right? And I don't think there's anybody on the outside that could say that they are content with the performance of the current commissioner. Now the process has come into question in the national discussion over this whole thing. And crime, of course, is one of the big issues coming into the next general election. So I just want to ask for you to close here on what do you think needs to be done to fix the situation with regards to the police. Is there something to be done with the selection of the next commissioner, or is it something broader than that in the police service?
Yeah, no, you're correct. The whole thing has become totally politicized. In 2018, and I'll show you how it can be solved. In 2018, when I got 82.5%, I got the highest percentage by far to anyone who applied for commissioner of police. Ula Christopher got 52%, 30% less. How could at any time someone like that could actually get more than myself and several others? Because at that time, this was done, the law stated it was supposed to be the measurement of performance and the merit list would be drafted by qualified international experts who understand what they're looking for. So whereas I would have acquired 42 out of 50% in the interview, Earlier got 20 odd percent. In the mock media conference, I got 12 or 13 out of 15, Earlier got 3. In the rule fit, I got 13 out of 15, she got 3. 3 years later, when I reapplied, I got 20% more than Earlier Christopher. Bam! A new police service commission is appointed, handpicked by a president, who was handpicked by a prime minister. This is the same president who did not adhere to the law by forwarding the merit list. She picks individuals who have no knowledge, qualification, or experience in national security. One is a speaking consultant and one is an accountant. That is the madness of this police service commission. So they handpick an individual that, and we blame Earlier Christopher. We can't. Earlier Christopher didn't impose herself on us. She applied for the position, and you had an incompetent police service commission that was politically handpicked. And they picked someone who got 30%. She didn't even come in the top 15 just a few years ago because she didn't have the capability. And that is the problem. We need to go back to have an international qualified expert do the merit list, because a police service commission will always be political because they are the ones who have been selected by a president who is a political appointment. And I can even go to show that I'm not being biased. Even when I got the 82%, that police service commission was selected by a previous administration who may have concerns then of me being commissioner because they didn't vote for me. Remember, they abstained. And this police service commission, inclusive of Martin George, Commodore Franklin, and they now said, look, Gary got 82%. We just don't, they threw out the whole point system and put me fourth, which was amazing. And they didn't have there was no justification. It's just their own personal view because they were also politically appointed. That is what is causing the problem. We need to go back to the international qualified neutral experts selected the merit list for commissioner of police and not politically appointed, incompetent, untrained members of a police service commission who's appointed by a president who's handpicked by a politician.
Well, actually, I want to cheat and have one more question so that now this is the final one, because you alluded to it. And I get pound for it because I go hard on this point. I feel that we're too much a society that promotes people based on tenure. And of course, yes, to some extent, nepotism, connections, networking and stuff. But tenure seems to win out more often than not. That's the justification at times, and not merit. And we're left wondering, where's the performance in various aspects of society? Will that be something, if you get the chance, you will try to push for change? I know it's not going to be so straightforward, but as someone who has political aspirations for higher office, of course, you know, you would be a leading figure in society.
Yeah, well, definitely. Even if you look at the principles under the National Transformation Alliance, we work on that model of LAMP: leadership, accountability, management, and measuring performance. The police service didn't transform. Where again, how many times you heard concerns about police abuse of authority? People started looking forward to see police in roadblocks because we put systems to measure their performance and make them accountable. We transformed the police service, and I say we because I had a team, and that team, all 21 of them, persons in charge of accounts, the legal department, technology, IT, cyber, administration, PR, communication, they removed all of them and brought back individuals who just didn't have a clue. So you put systems to measure performance. We transformed the police service. That lifted their morale, their whole personality changed. They felt good about being a police officer. Imagine during the COVID pandemic, not one police officer was upset, not one abused their authority. Look at that. And this was during a pandemic where you'd have seen all over the world police officers involved in riots, abusing their authority, and not one thank you was given to the police service. So the same way I use those principles to transform the police service by making sure their performance was measured and making them accountable, we can do the same thing for every arm in the public sector. It is not difficult. You just need to put checks and balances to measure performance and make individuals accountable. If I could have transformed the police service, we could do the same for every arm in the public service.
Well, this will have to be the formal end to the interview, but from what I understand, you're willing to take phone calls from the public. Is that correct, Mr. Griffith?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, so gentlemen, should we take a break or should we go straight into it? Okay, so I've been told we're going to go straight into it. So now we open up the phone lines. We want to give the chance for you, the viewer, to call in. You could ask Mr. Griffith whatever you want to ask. I will say, as always, however, be respectful if you call in. If you have something that maybe you do want to get, it's a hard question for Mr. Griffith, that's fine. But as long as it's respectful, no personal attacks, please. And also, given what happened in the Senate yesterday, mind your language. I'm just going to say it. Mind your language. Every now and then somebody does forget. This is national television and we have to be careful about that. So while we wait on the phone calls, please also don't wait to call later on in the half an hour, as it tends to happen, folks, because we're not going to be able to take all the calls at once. Right, so we have our first caller on the line, Digger Martin. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Mr. Small, and good morning, Mr. the Honorable former National Security and Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffith. I want to shoot a question, not literally, to Mr. Griffith, former CP. I have seen something that the TTPS hasn't done for a couple of years now or more, and that is imitation police. They have done so many untoward crime, and it doesn't appear the TTPS has control of it. You have lost me?
I'm hearing you.
Okay, good. I have reflected on it. And when these imitation police do something untoward, they get away. And I am saying, why are they getting away? Is this an inside job based on the knowledge of these imitation police knowing exactly where the cameras are so nobody could trace them? Because I know you have been a proponent of the NOC, which came out of the Simmons Commission, one of the deliverables, to put in a National Operations Center to basically keep all national security apparatus together so you can respond in time, on time, and get the perpetrators. I want your take on it. But the second question I have is the broader one. And I'm going back to Mr. Small on the way he treated the issues of baby death. I believe we are treating these baby deaths callously. A baby born is a blessing. And we have, as a country, has to basically optimize every situation to keep that baby alive. I am seeing that we're trying to normalize it, saying that the baby have challenges. They are born, they are underweight. Yes, but that is the same thing when a former prime minister said all the killings were kind of justified when he said it was collateral damage. So death, we must not normalize death in any aspect of it. And I'm saying there is an issue with health, and we must not, with these baby deaths, these specific babies, these 7 babies.
Okay, caller. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to end things there. We do have another caller waiting. Mr. Griffith, do you want to answer now, or should we take the other caller?
Hey, take the call. Take the other caller.
Okay, San Fernando on the line. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Captain. Good morning, sir. I have a small question for the Captain.
Sure.
Now, just a while ago, I heard him mention that somebody was on the email gate. Lied. Now, I recall some time ago when he was commissioner that he would have had to deal with that file. Did he find him lying then? And did he send that file to the DPP? Number one. Number two, now, he also made some remarks about, I had some files on him, and when I hear them file bust, I wouldn't use the words on TV, but you know what I mean. You know what happened to he? He got a long yellow line behind him. So, tell me what happened to those two now. Thank you.
Okay, well, let me deal with the second caller. Well, I believe you are speaking about he as being the Prime Minister.
Yes.
So the email gate, again, which was really sad, that a country can actually, I can't believe that, sometimes people, they're so naive because they are so politically blinded. Keith Rowley says that, so it has to be true. There was 17 typographical errors. You can't have a typographical error for an email to go through. So there's no such thing as mail.com. And so even the spelling of the email address was incorrect. So it was something that was typewritten. So it was common sense to know that this was a typewritten document that was trying to be, at times they were missing the dates. The date was in the wrong place. So it was shown that the email gate was a lie. But what Keith Rowley did is the one place you can lie and affect and read out lies is in Parliament, where you would not be sued. So that is why he didn't go by the TPP. It's the same thing about the audit report. He wanted to go to Parliament because when you read out lies, I couldn't sue the auditors or sue him for if he wanted, he could have gone forward in public, but they can't. So they've understood how to beat the system to defame their political opponents by going to Parliament to lie. And that is why and through the courts, which have been winning case after case after case, because that's what they have done. You say the same lie over and over, and the PNM fanatics may believe you. Going back to the first caller, I wasn't hearing them initially, but if you were speaking about imitation police, I don't know if it was about police officers showing that people that were imitating police officers. Is that what you were referring to?
Well, we've had several cases where, and I do think there could have been some cases where it was reported to be perpetrated by police, and now the reports are saying that it's believed to be fake officers wearing uniforms, not actual police officers perpetrating crimes.
And again, there were about 117 policies, units, technology that I would have put in place, and they all removed it. One would have been the police badge. They stopped, the badge was have been mandatory. So the badge was something, instead of a police ID card, you had the full police badge that would be able to show that person was a police officer. I got the approval to change the uniform. The uniform the police officers have is similar to an amalgamated security guard uniform. It is anybody could get that blue jacket and a blue pants in Pennywise, put it on, and then all of a sudden you look like a police officer. It is unbelievable that the police will have uniforms like this. So the uniform I had, and I got the approval for it, was going to be acquired about 2 months just after I left. It was similar to the NYPD or Chicago PD, where the officers will have the normal shirt with the clip-on for their radio, the belt with the body camera will also be on. It will have the pepper spray, the tasers for the minimum use of force. All of these things they shut down and removed. So whereas in my era, we were using body cameras, we were using pepper spray, we were using tasers for minimum use of force. We had the communication equipment, all of that was removed. That would have taken away and minimized the possibility of persons impersonating police officers. And more importantly, the problem that you were speaking about of the trust with the police, we put systems in place. We put online reporting. Online reporting ensure that if you had a situation of fraud, cyber, domestic violence, you can actually stay home, go online, it goes straight to that unit in the police department, and now they will be dealing with your matters.
Okay, Mr. Griffith.
Mr. Griffith. Go back to the old-time policing, have police officers in stations, and you have to go to a station to report a crime. So, and then we had the 482 Gary, we had the police app,
Mr.
we had
Griffith,
the
Mr. Griffith.
on your phone. So when you remove these things, it makes it easier for criminals to be successful.
We have another caller, I believe, waiting on the line, yes? San Juan on the line. Good morning, caller. You on there? Morning, morning.
Good morning.
Operates in this country. But if my memory serves me right, your special guest this morning, he is supposed to go.
Hold on. Sorry, excuse me, callers. We're hearing two callers
at the same time.
Right. So if you could continue with Mr. Sanwan. Sorry, for the other caller. Sanwan, please go ahead.
Yeah. Could I continue?
Okay. Hello? Yes. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, caller.
Hello.
Yes. Go ahead. You go ahead. Caller.
Hold on. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Don't listen to the.
If my memory.
Okay, we may be losing our caller. Let's switch to the other one. Let's go back to the other one.
Hello?
Hello, caller, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead, caller. Go ahead, please.
All right. You hearing me now?
Yes, yes.
All right. Good morning to you two gentlemen again. If my memory serves me right, and I don't know how the legal system in this country operates, I think your special guest there, the former commissioner of police, and the current chairman of the Police Complaints Authority, they are both billed as witnesses in a very high-profile matter involving a former Attorney General, a witness tampering case. Now, as I said from the outset, I don't know how the legal system operates in this country. I'm a layperson. I do not have a legal background. But as my memory serves me correct, the former commissioner of police and, as I said, the current chairman of the Police Complaints Authority, they are supposed to go as witnesses against a former Attorney General who is involved in what is described as a witness tampering case. I don't know who is responsible, if it is the Director of Public Prosecutions or the Chief Justice, the head of the Judicial and Legal Service Commission, if either gentleman have to alert these two gentlemen as far as the case is concerned. But I find that this matter, I mean, if as a high-profile person as a former Attorney General, and this matter just seems to be going on and on and on, where will it end? Nobody knows. Because as a member of the public, I would like to see a determination one way or the other. I'm not pronouncing guilt or innocence. The court will decide that. But could the former Commissioner of Police throw any light if he has been alerted when he has to go as a witness against the former Attorney General? I'll listen to your comments of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller.
Okay, right. So the first thing to clarify is that he said it on 2 or 3 occasions. He said that I'm a witness against the Attorney General.
Well,
at no time has that ever been stated. What was stated is that the police would like me to provide a witness statement pertaining to information that I may be aware of that could assist them in the investigation. So the comment that he just made, that I am a witness against the Attorney General, he has already predetermined what was in my report. He and no one else in the country knows what was in my report. So to allude that I am a witness against the Attorney General, that is, I'm not going to say what is in it, but you can't make that type of accusation without even knowing what it is I stated. So in other words, persons can be witness to a crime. Being a witness doesn't mean that that person is going to be there for the state or for the defendant. He's a witness, and that's all I am. The matter is in the hands of the DPP, and if and when the DPP sees that he has enough information to move forward with the recommendation for this matter, that is when he would do so. So there's nothing that I can do at this time. Okay. I am simply someone who provided a witness statement that could assist the police in the investigation. Whether it is in benefit of the defendant or the state, that remains to be seen when that time comes.
We have Digger Martin on the line waiting. Sorry, the caller. Good morning. You on the air?
Yes, hello.
Morning, morning. Go ahead, caller.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, hello, good morning.
Yes, don't listen to the TV. Listen to your phone. You can hear me. Go ahead.
Oh, this question is, we are hearing of a third force. And this, as you rightly stated, it was evident in the 81 activity. There are certain people in this country who will not vote for the UNC, regardless of, and who will not vote for the PS, either way. But what the partnership brought was a togetherness involving the COP, very much in the same manner of the NAR, which involved the ONR. But every attempt was made, both with the NAR and the People's Partnership, to destroy the COP. In fact, no effort was made to destroy the COP, and it was made to build the partnership. Now, you have been trying to, to give an answer to the people, but yes, there is a third force which can have a deciding factor in the results of the election.
Caller, we're losing you.
Sean, you picked up this?
We'll have to ask caller. Maybe if you call back, the connection will be better. We don't know if we have another caller.
Yeah, good day.
Good day, caller. Sorry for having you wait so long, caller. Good morning.
Once is Mr. Griffith, I can wait until tonight. Yeah.
Well, go ahead, sir.
You're a gentleman. Mr. Griffith, good day, and to the gentleman there, good day.
Morning.
You hear me? Morning.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, good morning.
So, Mr. Griffith, they will try. Mr. Griffith, like I have social words to tell you. You're so real. Huh? You're so real. I don't even know what to tell you. You're so nice. You're well trained, properly well trained. You could talk, you could answer, and the sycophants, they want to play the talking, but they know who you're dealing with. You're well trained. And I like a lot of words, but I want to draw a point. The guy who called you a big mouth, you only talk with a big mouth. Oh, give him a little piece of your looks, you know. Oh, I'll show it. Look how nice he is. Give him a little piece of your looks now. And have a nice day. Give him a little piece of your looks. And then put your face by a horse, and he goes, you have a big mouth. Have a good day.
Well, thank you, caller. Well, all right. I assume, Mr. Griffith, you know what he was speaking about.
Yeah. And again, mentioned with him and the last caller when he was speaking about the third party. Listen, to Trinidad and Tobago, the only reason I'm getting into this, I don't need a job. The only reason I'm getting into this, when I was Commissioner of Police, there were 43 death threats on me and my family. The special branch confirmed that I was the highest risk person in the history of Trinidad and Tobago because of me putting my life on the line for my country. That is all that I'm doing. All that I am doing is I feel that this could be a better country. My intention is to do the opposite of what many politicians have done. They have divided the country deliberately. I intend to unite the country. I remember when I walked during the local government election in the hills in Paramin, in Scorpion, in Caranage, all in Simeon Road, in Pity Valley, all the hills up to the top of Cocorite, all through the hills in Lavantil, Tunapuna, San Fernando, Sangre Grande, all the hills in Arima. And persons there said they've never seen a political leader or even their member of parliament in those areas. And I didn't do that for cosmetic. I didn't take the media there or anything like that. It's really to get to see and understand what this country is going through. Well, and when you see that, I think we can fix this country. We can really do it if we take away the politics.
I have a couple of questions. I'll go with the most serious one first, because one of the things that is alarming is the nature of the weapons now being discovered on a more frequent basis. And we just so happened when the Deputy Commissioner of Prisons was shot at, that same day. Well, I'll hold off on the question for now. We have Clarkson Bay on the line. Good morning, caller. You're on here.
Good morning, Sean, and morning to Mr. Griffith.
Morning, Mr. Fisherman.
Good morning.
Well, let me tell you something about me. I'm about roughly 70 years old, Mr. Gary. I will have one time maybe in my lifetime to vote again.
Right.
And I think that our continue to change with the two parties. You know, what you know going on. I really not concerned the two parties like for UNC or vote PNM. I used to vote that who I feel could represent the best. But like now we do have no represent. We need a third force. And that's my take. I would like it. Well, I'm from the Clapton area. I would like to don't know if you have a meeting in the Clapton area sometime to advertise or something. That's my take really.
Thank you, caller. Thank you, caller. Sorry for the. I believe you were cut unfortunately earlier. I didn't realize. But I don't know if you want to respond to that quick before I could get my question in.
Country wants positive change, and I am not here to go PNM and UNC bashing. Both parties have done a lot to the development of Trinidad and Tobago. I am not here to be trying to demonize either political party or political leader. However, I believe that if it is that we can find some common ground to try to fix this country, working as a team, we can do so. Even whilst Keith Rowley is, I personally believe that Keith Rowley needs to go. He has failed miserably. But, and it has to do again with the appointment of your ministers. You have a minister of sport who has boasted she never kicked a line. You have a minister of national security who left as a police constable and is obviously clueless in policy making. You have a minister of health shirking responsibility. You have a minister of finance who seems unable to even balance Form 5 accounting. So that is the only reason. but it is not for us to demonize the PNM and Keith Rowley. It is the Rowley PNM that has caused the problem, and I give the assurance to the country, it is not going to be exchanged. The same way it is that I made myself accessible, I intend to find an avenue to make sure that the next government would be accountable and we would be able to transform Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, right. So back to my question, because speaking about issues that we may have, high-powered weapons, that find after the shooting at the deputy commissioner included at least one 50 caliber rifle and one other high-powered long-range rifle. And I emphasize the high-powered part because of the potential damage it could do, collateral damage, if the shooter is either not concerned about what's in his backfield of his target, or, you know, just in general, you go after hardened targets with high-powered weapons, and I shudder to think what that might be. What is your take on it? Because once I saw a 50 caliber rifle being taken, I thought that we're not too far removed from things escalating to a point we never would have anticipated before.
And therein lies the problem again with politics. When it is I made that recommendation a few weeks ago, I said that if someone is found with an illegal assault weapon, that person should be deemed a terrorist because he has the capability to kill 35 persons in 3 seconds. That is how deadly these weapons are. You know what Keith Rowley says? Gary Griffith just wanted every criminal to be deemed a terrorist, which again, he was a liar. I was stating that if someone has an assault weapon, because if someone is found with an assault weapon right now, he's going to be arrested, he's going to be given $50,000 bail if so much and go back out onto the streets for the next few years. So that is the problem. You put that under the Anti-Terrorist Act. You now target that individual with the weapon. You target the individuals who brought it in. You target the individuals who supported him and protected him. And now you flush them and put them where they belong. That is how you deal with the problem.
Permit me to find some middle ground, because you've reminded me of a situation where this is one where I disagree with you. Because unfortunately, legal classifications of terrorism put certain mechanisms in place that might not be appropriate for this problem. But I will say this, it sounds as though the main issue here is that the penalty, right, the measures to control firearms of this level and the penalty involved with having them, it's just not sufficient. The response is not sufficient, the punishment is not sufficient. And I guess we could at the very least agree that perhaps these things need to be revisited in a serious way.
Let me take you up the middle ground so that you will agree with me.
Okay.
If there's an act, and the act, and what you're doing is you're looking at the letter of the law presently. That is why you call it amendments to the act. Because the act states that if it is that this person is doing it politically motivated or to destabilize the country, if it is that all, so that because of you just make an amendment, there are many countries have a similar act. That is, someone has an automatic weapon. That is the person is deemed a terrorist because you have the capability to totally cause havoc in a country. Somebody is a sniper and takes out a prime minister. He's a terrorist. But if you have a weapon that can kill 35 persons by a bar, you're not a terrorist. That is madness. So all I'm stating is that you make slight amendments to the Anti-Terrorism Act to state that it's not just if you have one weapon to kill a politician, you're a terrorist. But if you have a weapon to kill 35 civilians by a bar, you're not a terrorist. It is simple to amend the act to say that if anyone has the type of capability that can cause untold damage to law-abiding citizens, he is deemed a terrorist because that could cause undue panic throughout the country. You see, there's an amendment to the act that is required.
I understand, but you see, the thing is, terrorism is a technical thing that could then impact our partnerships with foreign law enforcement agencies.
But you agree that if we find an avenue to have these persons incarcerated for 25 years immediately without bail,
well, ironically,
our international allies.
But the support they would give us,
where somebody is held and they're going to be given bail the very next year.
But Mr. Griffith, the support they would give us would technically, if we say it's terrorism, it will be in line with political extremism and violence. And actually, I'm saying, why even saddle it to the act? We could go even further than the Anti-Terrorism Act goes in some respects if we specific target legislation for assault weapons just in general. If we call it terrorist, the FBI, the CIA, however, they will respond a certain way when it's not necessarily going to be a sort of politically motivated group.
Right.
It would need different...
I understand what you mean. So let me show you why that can't happen. Because we have governments that when the government changes, somebody held with a sidearm. Remember initially when I was minister, someone held with a sidearm, there was the bail amendment.
Right.
And that has collapsed. So something as simple as a bail amendment for a sidearm that the person could be held for 120 days without bail. We couldn't even agree to that. So that is not going to happen. The Anti-Terrorism Act, if someone has because we actually, you know, there's that big debate in the United States now. Why are these individuals, when they are found with an assault weapon and they kill children in a school, you're not deemed a terrorist? You're deemed, I forgot the word that they refer to them as, but you try not to call them a terrorist. And what we are showing is that because of the Anti-Terrorism Act, if you're held under terrorism, you're not given bail and you're incarcerated for 25 years, and the persons who have aided and abetted in you having the capability to kill 35 persons in 3 seconds. So I speak to the FBI and the CIA probably more than any other politician in the last few years in this country, as a minister and as a commissioner. And I can assure you, they wanted to find avenues to protect their own citizens in the United States citizens in this country.
So is it
stating that somebody with an assault weapon that can kill 35 persons in 3 seconds, we are finding an avenue to have them incarcerated for life without bail. I don't think the United States is going to blacklist Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, no, I don't necessarily think they are. But so let me just make sure that we're clear here. One of the main issues you have is the fact that political practicality, this is a way to get it done, because unfortunately we are in a quagmire where what I would say, at least the proper way to do it, doesn't seem to be feasible and practical right now.
Correct, because it's not going to be approved in Parliament, because something as simple as a sidearm for 120 days with the bail amendment, it can't be approved. So you're not going to get it that way. The Anti-Terrorism Act is, and if you read the Anti-Terrorism Act, it's just one amendment. So instead of stating for political gain or to destabilize the country, but you're stating that it can do untold damage towards affecting the stability of a country. If someone has, if someone has a hand grenade, that person could be deemed a terrorist. But you have an assault weapon that can do the same damage as a hand grenade. He's not a terrorist. So that's all you're doing. You're just amending the law, slight amendments that allows that. Because why would you not deem a person a terrorist? Because if he has an assault weapon that can go down a street and kill 35 persons in 3 seconds, you don't see that person as being a terrorist? I think we pushed that, but Keith Rowley decided to mislead the country and say Gary Griffith says every criminal should be deemed a terrorist.
Well, Mr. Griffith, I appreciate and understand your arguments better now. I don't necessarily like it, but I cannot necessarily fault you for it, at least to some extent. It just reveals an unfortunate truth right now of our political environment.
Sure, and let me quickly add, and it goes right back to the El Salvador situation. When people said we must do like what is happening in El Salvador, I did 5% of that. I took the fight to the criminals. When I said one shot, one kill.
Would you go further? Would you go further? Not that you would go whole hog, or would you? But would you look to, do you think we need to be a bit more like El Salvador? You know, I wouldn't necessarily want to say how much.
That's what I'm saying. I did about 5% of what he did. And by that 5%, it was the highest reduction in serious crime, in violent crime in 17 years. Public trust and confidence in the police went from 14 to 59%, and the public never felt so safe. If you recall that, in that period, people felt safer because they felt comfortable with the police. They didn't see police abuse. Police were pegging back criminal elements. Remember, a few moments later, not all of those things people couldn't understand. How could this man actually make a threat to kill someone, and then within an hour he's apologizing? Well, he pegged back criminals, but people were concerned. They said, how dare Gary call a murderer, a child molester, a cockroach? People were defensive of criminals. You will get that in this country. People were set about one shot, one kill was to let criminals know, don't feel that the police are going to shoot you in your leg. Don't feel that the days of you shooting at police, they're going to back off. We're going to come after you and either neutralize you or arrest you. That is the type of policing we need. We need to take the fight to them, because the scales of justice have been tilted for far too long towards helping the criminals.
Well, is it that as what you've mentioned there, and also a previous discussion, a previous debate, is it that we just lack political will to potentially institute new, not necessarily extreme, but new methodologies, harsher penalties when appropriate? We just lack political will to do the hard work, and the hard work doesn't just mean to be more brutal on criminals, but also to do the hard work of governance, of getting all of these things done, all the paperwork, all the administration, all the groundwork, all the foundation work. We just lack the political will to do it, because it's easier to just say, well, you know, we can't do it?
Well, I don't know, because as the Commissioner of Police, it was the same laws that we had, but the country felt safer. The country never felt so safe as it would 3 years ago. 3 years later, they've never felt so fearful. It's the same police officers. It's the same laws. What it is that I was willing to play that type of that policing coming out of my crease and make risks, and the risk of always being productive. If it is you have a commissioner who wants to stay in the office, wear gabardine, have a cane, and not make decisions and hope that if you pray, you can pray yourself out of the problems, it's not going to work. Well, you're going to get in there and take the fight to the criminals. And it worked then, and it can work now.
We have Santa Cruz on the line, I think. Sorry, who first? El Socorro, sorry, El Socorro on the line. Good morning, caller, you're on here. Caller?
Yes, good morning. Yeah,
morning.
Good morning. Okay. We talk about crime and so on in this country. Is it the people on the ground only involved in crime? I am saying part of the problem in this country, while some is political, some is from people with money. Because if we don't have transshipment in this country of drugs, we won't have this amount of guns all over the country. Is it that somebody spreading guns along the east-west corridor, selling it to these misled fellas for political purposes? A lot of problems is happening in this country all on a sudden, and nobody is tackling the big crime at the top. If you obey, you start from your head, go down. When it reaches down to your foot, that is the end product. Are we only dealing with the end product? That does not mean to say condoning the fellas down on the ground who committing the crime. What about solving the crime at the top, which is the main area of the crime?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk about that because some people are aligned with the same people who are bringing in transshipment drugs sent to Europe and other places. And when you get transshipment drugs from the Colombians and the Mexicans, you have to take guns with it. This is part of the dealings. The guns end up on the street here. If we will deal with the top, we will solve crime in this country. People could say what they want. Crime is not only on the ground. And what we are hearing is only crime on the ground with the fellas who are used as pawns. We are being deceitful. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. We have another caller, quick. Let's take the call. Good morning, caller, you on here?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, caller.
Yeah, to the commissioner, former commissioner. I want to know what he was doing with that cache of guns at his residence at St. James there. Well, that's not customary. I'm 90 years old, and it's the first time that I ever heard that so much guns. There was a truckload of guns when Griffith was thrown out of the service. I heard him. He said just now when he left, he never left. He was thrown out.
No, I was not thrown out. That's a lie. I was not thrown out. My service had ended.
Which service, caller?
The president did not adhere to the law by forwarding the merit list for it to be approved. So instead of lying, you should understand and read first before making false statements. I was never thrown out.
Caller, continue.
Yeah. What do you do with that set of thousands of guns and ammunition?
Who are you speaking about,
thousands of guns and ammunition? Because you're blinded by what your PNM masters tell you. Please tell me the guns and ammunition. And you know what I want you to do? Give me a name and make an accusation, and I must sue you for everything you have. Don't make stupid accusations unless you have facts. You ever saw any guns and ammunition there? If you don't know, don't lie and don't sound stupid. Come with facts. You ever saw any guns and ammunition? Let us hear the type of guns. Show us the photos of these guns. Show us the ammunition. Stop lying and stop being brainwashed by your political leaders.
I think we will end this call there for the benefit of all involved.
This is exactly what these are the PNM fanatics. And all these thousands of guns and all these thousands. What guns are you talking about, lady? You want to hear about guns?
Mr. Griffith.
Was the one who was telling me to get an approval for a firearm dealer in Tobago to sell thousands of more guns. It shows the hypocrisy.
Mr. Griffith, allow me to just interject. I myself was not entirely sure what conclusions the caller was going to make. So I don't necessarily...
conclusions, so that's the point.
I don't want to... I know, but...
brainwashed by whatever Rowley says. They're blind. It's like sheep.
Mr. Griffith.
All these thousands of guns in the commission as residents. What is that?
I would just,
sir.
I would just advise that you could have let the caller finish.
Everybody knows how Abu Bakr brought in the guns to try to add them to bigger when they tried to overthrow the government. It's just that you had a different way. You had this.
Well, let me hear the way.
Guys, let's end the call. Let's end the call. Mr. Griffith,
Sean,
let's end it because...
Sean, that sheep needs to actually go and graze with Rowley. Because all the guns that you bring in, again, there were 25,000 applicants. So ladies, let me educate you if you're willing to be educated. There were 25,000 applicants for firearms. I gave out 6,000 in 3 years. Had I continued, it would have taken 15 years for those 25 applicants
Gary,
to be dealt with. Every one of those 6,000, not one was lost, not one was stolen, not one was
Gary.
So lady, unless you have some criminal element in your family, you seem upset that law-abiding citizens were getting firearms to protect themselves, half of which were for law enforcement officials. So the people who had an issue with that is because you have concerns about your criminal friends.
Mr. Griffith, we still have a question from El Socorro, the caller before. I don't know if you could still offer us an answer. It was about basically why is it that it's only street-level gangs, not the high-level operators.
Yeah. And he is 100% correct. And again, one of the perceptions of Keith Rowley, as I said, remember in March, he said that if he could get 10 Gary Griffiths, he could fix the country. And then he told the AG to change the law. When information started coming to him that I was also involved in investigations of very high-ranking officials that could be linked to government, immediately the red flag was raised. We got to pull the flag, the rug from Gary Griffith because I was doing a little too much. I was digging up, and even remember there was a PNM minister that also was arrested under my watch. And if there were UNC people, I would have done the same because there were other officials being investigated. I don't care what political party card you had. I had an oath of office to my God, my country, and the citizens. And if it is that based on those investigations, it meant that the government figured that Gary was getting too close and it could affect us politically, it shows exactly what the last caller did. That's why I linked a white-collar crime unit that was never done before, linking the FIB, the fraud, the cybercrime, all working together for them to be able to start pinpointing individuals. I drafted what was known as civil asset forfeiture, that the Attorney General of the PNM piggybacked and changed it into explain your wealth. That was an avenue to fight to try to deal with white-collar crime and criminal elements who they are the ones who really have been instrumental in the crime in this country. Let me just quickly add, because that is why I drafted the Border Protection Unit to prevent the illegal guns from entering the country. Keith Rowley took it and shelved it. I got 2 mobile scanners to be able to pinpoint illegal weapons in vehicles. They shelved it as well.
Last call, we have Diego Martin on the line. Last call, we've gone over time, but callers are calling in. Diego Martin, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
I just want to say to Mr. Griffith, I mean, you have my support 100%. But the fact is that you cannot win an election on your own. So you know you have to make a choice either one or the other. So just choose wisely and go your way. You'll get support, but the fact is you will not get enough support to win an election on your own. You're the best choice we have right now, and the fact remains that crime is the most important thing right now, barring the economy as well. And you were the only person that didn't make a big dent in crime. And people should put that in the back of their mind and think carefully about that, because that is the problem that is causing the economy, everything to go down the drain. And you don't have people on the other side here that could really do anything, and they're not doing anything. You're going backwards. So, gentlemen, you have a good day and enjoy.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. So I'd like to just close on that. Again, I fully understand what he's saying. And as I was mentioning, when I was Commissioner of Police, I said 43 death threats on me and my family. You think anybody wants to get that? When I was Minister of National Security, it was the same thing. Nobody has put a death threat on Keith Rowley, but he has about 20-something special branch men around him, 3 days a week in Mocha playing golf. Stuart Young is the Minister of Energy. A Minister of Energy never had security. He has security for his children, his Pompec, everybody. The fact is, for me to get back into this, I am getting back into this, is that I had a system, I had a policy, and that the country was feeling safe. The only way that I can do this again is to get back in government. So the opportunity I have to do is to get back in government to fix this country, to be able to, not just the police service, I am going to make sure that the defense force can be utilized in such a way that this country is going to be one of the safest countries in this hemisphere. Be able to, the fire services, the prison services, and other arms in the protective services, as well as the public service. The only way I can do that is to be in a position in government. And the only way that can happen is to have dialogue with others who may have the same principles and the same interests. And when we do that, I promise Trinidad and Tobago, the same way that I was able to assist in transforming the police service, we will transform Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, Mr. Griffith, I mean, you may seem controversial. Hell, you know, it may be safe to say in some regards you are. However, controversy comes from making waves. That's number one. Number two, at the end of the day, at a time when national security is probably at the highest as an issue in society that it's ever been, at the very least we could say that you're saying definitive things and are the closest to having definitive ideas. So I do wonder how the voters will respond. We have almost a year or just under a year to go. It will be interesting to see. Hopefully this will not be the last chance we have to chat, but we're over time, so we need to end things there, as you said. Thank you for being on Talking Point.
My pleasure. Take care.